Hello, everyone. I'm Ross Porter. There are nearly 17,000 golf courses in America, and about 25 million of the U.S. citizens play the sport. Southern California has always had a lot of champions in golf, and one of them will be our guest here today. He has won 25 professional tournaments, including two majors, the 1970 PGA and the 1976 PGA. Always good to see Dave Stockton.
Okay.
You were born in San Bernardino. Did you live in that city after you were born?
Oh yeah, I never left until Kathy and I went on tour, and we left to go to Westlake Village in 1967.
How many sports did you play?
Anything but golf. I grew up on Arrowhead Country Club. My dad was a pro, but golf was in those days was a little bit like tiddlywinks important to people. And I'd come back and there's the golf course, but we use the golf course to play baseball or football or tetherball or basketball in the front yard. And I played golf only because the golf course was there. I'd practice and stuff, but never seriously. It wasn't until I broke my back when I was 15 surfing that I realized that if I was going to get a scholarship, I was going to have to be good at something, and I couldn't do a contact sport at that point. So then I really went along with my dad's help, obviously, started practicing. So eventually I got my scholarship to USC to come in there to play. But that's, and I'd come home on the weekends. It was perfect because I didn't necessarily care for LA in the winter. In the weekends, I'd drive home and I'd be able to practice for a couple of days and get my studies done and kind of did it that way. But no, San Bernardino was a nice place to grow up for sure. Luckily, Kathy, my wife, was from Redlands, and Redlands turned out we came back to Mentone and then moved over to Redlands itself in 2003. But no, I've always been a part of the Inland Empire. All my charity is in the Inland Empire now. Kathy has a cancer walk through Stater Brothers, the backing of Stater Brothers charities there. And they raised $800 to $1 million that stays in our area.
Great.
I've had this Medal of Honor recipient tournament through Jack Brown and Stater Brothers. We'll be having our 15th year coming up this year after a couple of years hiatus during COVID. But no, all our activities are here in the Inland Empire.
How old were you when you first swung a golf club?
2. I was right out on the lawn. I mean, it was there, so I swung and everything. And I played a couple of tournaments, 10 and under, and I played in the father-son with my dad.
Yeah.
But then I started playing after I hurt my back early in the summer of when I was 15 years of age. I never played like these kids today. They just had an AJGA event at Redlands here, and they're from all around the world, Thailand, South Korea, all these different places to come, Europe. All these kids are unbelievable players. I never played more than 3 tournaments because I worked in a construction company for Gibson Lumber Company every summer. Even when I was at USC, I worked every summer. And golf didn't become till after my sophomore year at USC, when I finally got to a level that I was really competent at. Because I'd come in behind Guyberger, and I was certainly no Guyberger. Alan had an unbelievable record, great swing, obviously, and a great player and a wonderful friend. But I just developed. I was a late bloomer, and I entered USC as a pre-law student. That lasted a year, but I went full term. I got my degree. My parents informed me that I was sure not going to try the tour until I got my degree. Yeah. And I've never looked back on it. It was a great career choice because it's been wonderful, the people we meet and the places we visited.
Which high school, and did your school have a golf team?
Oh yeah, I went to Pacific High School, which was a new high school. The first class was in 1958, I believe, and I was the class that started in. It was the first graduating class. Now my graduating class was 59. But they had a golf team. Nick Kasulis and I were number 1 and 2. Nick is a good friend. and we had a good golf team. In fact, I
Really?
almost got in when I was still in junior high school because I could
Really?
beat most of the team when I was there. But no, it was a good sounding block. It really was.
So you had 4 years of varsity golf.
4 years of golf, varsity golf. Well, I had 3 years of golf, 3 years in high school. And then I had 4 years at USC, 4.5 years. I was ineligible my freshman year, which is a story you'll laugh about. Geiberger's team left, and with McAllister and Bud Bradley, they left, and they'd won 53 straight matches. And we got rid of that streak for them in a hurry because there was a quadrangular at Arizona, and we stayed at Bear Down Gym at the U of A. And it was Arizona State, Arizona, UCLA, and ourselves. And I drove because coach gave me 10 cents a mile to drive my dad's station wagon, which was a lot of money to me. That was great. And I go out with the coaches because as a freshman, you couldn't play it. I shot 66. The best score by a guy counting for SC was 74, and we got beat by all three teams. Wow. So I told Geiberger, we got rid of your record in a hurry. We got, we go at 0-3 to start out on my tenure.
What golf courses did you play mostly?
We played Wilshire on Mondays, Hillcrest on Tuesdays, LA North on Friday were our three courses.
What's the favorite golf course you ever played?
Pebble Beach.
What about in California? That's Southern California.
Southern California, I would say Riviera. Mm-hmm. The hardest I've played is LA North. Mm-hmm. In fact, when I won the LA Open at Riviera, I made the comment. Somebody asked me the question, which they shouldn't have, because I was dumb enough to answer it. But here I've won at Riviera, and they asked me which is harder, Riviera or LA, and I made some stupid comment, but it was true that Riviera, is wonderful it is, and as tough as it is, it can't touch LA North. And now the way they've changed it, and of course we got the Open coming, it's going to be unbelievable because it's a very, very tough golf course.
And Dave, I've heard golfers who are your friends have said this, and they have ranked Riviera as their favorite golf course in America.
It wouldn't be I love Riviera. I think Riviera is phenomenal. I like it better playing than I do LA North for sure. But my favorite two would be Pebble Beach and Cypress Point. And then following, when I played the Masters, Augusta would have been my third.
Yeah.
And then Riviera would come in. But I've been fortunate for us. I've won on some courses, and this gets back to we talked about the Live Tour. I look back at my record, and I think the tournaments you win and the courses you win are extremely important. Oh, yeah. And I look at Colonial. I won at Ben Hogan's. I won at Colonial. I won at Riviera. I won at Southern Hills and Tulsa, which is, I think, a true trade. It may be a flyover state for a lot of people, but the Tulsa course.
Now you're talking to an Oklahoma now.
There you go. Okay. All right. Well, all my wife's side of the family is from Iowa, so it's the same thing. But Southern Hills, and I go to Congressional, the other one I won, which was the one there's no way I should have won it because it is an extremely long and hard golf course. But Canterbury for the U.S. Open in Cleveland, that's what I look back on. And I'm just curious what these Live fellows are going to look back on, especially the young ones that aren't going to have the opportunity to play some of these treasured courses that we have here. And they're going to miss out on a part of history, being able to compete on some of these venues.
How did you connect with USC, and were you given a full golf scholarship?
Good question. My dad was at SC, graduated in, I think it was 33. And he and I became, when I won the Pac-12 in my junior year at Washington, up in Seattle, we became the first father and sons at USC in the same sport. Wow. Both captains of the team, both won his was the Pac-8, mine was the Pac-10. And then junior followed us, Ronnie too, but Ronnie had an issue and ended up coming out. He got mugged actually his sophomore year. But David finished second to Mickelson in the NCAA at Oak Tree in Oklahoma, which was, I think, one of the greatest things he accomplished because he doubled the first 2 holes. He was 4 over after 2 holes and finished second.
Wow.
And so we were 3 generations in a row. Both my mom and dad went to USC, graduated from USC. And we would have been four generations, except SC was the only school that turned down David's daughter, Serena, who is a 4.25 student in advanced studies. But for whatever reason, and I haven't really forgiven SC for that, is that they turned her down. I mean, all these other schools said, we'd love to have you. But SC said you need to go to community college for a year and then we'll consider it.
Oh.
And it bummed me out because it ended a lot of legacy. It meant so much to SC to this family, and it kind of got turned around.
When did you decide you wanted to be a golf professional?
I wanted to become a golf professional during my junior year. I started to play really good. I mean, it took me a couple of years to even break 75 on LA North. I could handle the other 2 with ease, but then my last 2 years, I never had a round above 73 at LA North. And I realized that, once I figured out how to play a course, I could play it as good as anybody. I didn't have the length, obviously, but I had the mental strength to be able to handle these things. And so I wanted to try the tour, and my parents I had 8 units shy, so I had to come back for an extra semester. But I'm not sure how much help that was to me, but it made my parents very proud, and it made me the fact that I can accomplish a goal. And it was very important, and it was a great education, no question about it. And I was very proud to be a Trojan, and was proud to be a member of their Hall of Fame.
You turned pro in 1964. How long after leaving USC was that?
I graduated half year. I graduated in February. So I had to go the extra semester. I was a class of 63, but graduated in February of 64, and turned pro and played many little small tournaments around Southern California. Thank God there was no qualifying schools in those days. So I simply sent my money in. And in October of 64, I played the Almaden Open up in San Jose. It was my first tournament. I averaged hitting, I think, 8 greens around and finished 10th in the tournament. I made $2,700, and it was just, no, it wasn't 27, it was $1,200, because I made 2,000. The second tournament was the Almaden Open in Lafayette, Louisiana, which was important because if you made the cut, you got in the LA Open and Riviera, which I rode with the Lots brothers from Northern Cal, and we went there. And we all 3 made the cut. So we all 3 got in the LA Open the following year in 1965. So that was the start of my career.
When did you win your first golf tournament?
I won Colonial Fort Worth in 67. And then in September, I won the Hague at La Costa with Laurie Hammer, my good friend out of the University of Florida. It was Laurie's only tour win, and it was my second one. So that was the start.
You wound up winning, as I said earlier, 25 pro golf tournaments, 10 on the PGA Tour, 14 on the Senior Tour. And I guess the other one you were playing with, a lady in a mixed event?
No, see, that Laurie is a guy. It's Laurie Hammer. That was the
right.
Hague, and that's the one. It was an official win for 14 years, and then the tour took it away from me.
Oh.
And now we play a tournament in New Orleans with the exact same format. Alternate shot, best ball one day, the different things. And they get, millions for playing it now. Laurie and I made Colonial was 23,000. And I think our win together, I forget what it was. It was less than 20, I believe. But it was Trevino played. It was an official event for 14 years. And then all of a sudden, that's why your addition is not your fault that you say 10 wins on the regular tour and 14 on the senior make 25. It does, because it should be 14 and 11. In my mind, I had it for 14 years, and I think it's very unfair they took it away from me.
Please give my apologies to Laurie.
Well, if that had been my name, I would have switched it. His name's Robert Lauren. And so he could have gone by Bob, and we'd all known who I'd played with.
In 1970, you went to the PGA tournament, as you say, at Southern Hills Country Club in Tulsa, Oklahoma. You beat 69 golfers to win your first major title. During the final round, you played with the most popular man in golf, Arnold Palmer. If that were not challenging enough, Arnie's army was a little rude to you at times, weren't they?
No, but Ross, you have to look back on what transpired. And I'll tell you a story that you'll appreciate, but they weren't rude. It's just you had to be careful when you played with Arnold. You had to make sure you putted out, because Arnold had this quirk that he would, when he putted out, it's not his fault, but the gallery would take off. Okay. Because they weren't interested in you, they were interested in Arnold, and he had so many people following him. The only way you had to take off really fast to get to the next hole to be able to see what was going on. Well, in 1966, I get paired at LA. They're playing the tournament that year at Rancho Park, and going in the last round, Palmer had a 7-shot lead on me. I'm in 5th place. January was 4 behind him in 3rd place, and they paired 1, 3, 5. I don't know why, because they usually did 1, 2, 3. But here I am. I've been on tour 2 years. I've never met Arnold Palmer because he would make the cut. And we weren't playing necessarily the same tournaments. But so I'm introduced by Stan Wood, my golf coach at USC, on the first tee. And I'm nervous as hell. And Arnold gets introduced first, kills it. In January, PGA champion, he kills it. I get up, and as January's hitting, I'm looking at my feet, and my toes are bouncing in my shoes because I'm just like a cat on a hot tin roof. And but I look at them heavy enough, you couldn't see my toes moving. So I felt good about that. I get up and I hit. And as soon as I hit, it goes right down the middle. We're all 3 down the middle, but they're both about 40 yards ahead of me. And I pick up the tee, and this voice beside me goes, son, and I stop dead. And here comes January walking at a crawl, just very slowly. He says, son, he says, I just want to let you know. First of all, he says, what do you see out there? I said, 20,000 people. And he says, yeah. He said, yep. He says, I just want to let you know that you're going to have a problem today. And I go, yeah, okay. And he says, you see Arnold? Well, Arnold's already looked at everybody on the left side, and now he's going across, and he's 60 yards ahead of us, going to the right side, because everybody there will swear that Arnold was looking right at him, right? And that was Arnold. That was his appeal to people. Well, as we're walking in January, it's just so slow. Arnold's got us by 80 yards when he passes my ball. And in January, we've gone maybe 50 yards ourselves, walking slowly. He hadn't said a word. And he says, now, do you see Arnold? I said, yes, sir. He says, and you watch, when he gets his ball, he's going to turn around and look back at us and see what in the hell we're doing 80 yards behind him, right? Because he says, he can't hit till you hit, can he? And I said, no, sir. And he says, well, I just want to let you know you have a problem today. And the problem you have is that if you walk Arnold's pace, and I know you walk fast, you're the first one that's going to hit all day because you can't drive it as far as we can. And doing that, if you walk that pace, you're going to see me walking up your backside because this is the pace I walk. He said, on the other hand, if you walk my pace, Arnold can't hit till you hit, right? And I said, yes, sir. He says, well, you walk my pace, we'll screw this sucker up. And my eyes flew open. I'm going, oh my gosh. I never even thought about how fast I played or walked, how that had any impression on what my score was going to be. And the second hole, I was sore from walking that slow. So the second hole, I took off to the left toward the people. Then I took off to the right where there were no people. So I made like an X. And I got to my ball, and I just gotten there by about 10 seconds. January walks by me, and all he did is wink at me. He didn't say a word. He just winked at me. And by the 4th hole, Kathy, I tee off on 4, and we're all even. All have parred the first 3 holes. And she says, Dave, what are you doing? And I pulled her under the ropes and put my arm around her. And I explained to her what Don January said. And she says, and I said to her, it never dawned on me that the pace I walk could really affect how I played, or so on and so forth. And she says, well, that makes perfect sense. Well, I'll fast forward to the 18th hole. I've gotten 5 shots on Palmer. I'm 5 under.
Wow.
And he birdies the last hole and he wins the tournament. He beats Paul Harney from New England. And January was 3rd and I finished 4th. And we made $3,700. And it was ecstatic. I mean, that was the third of what I made the entire previous year, in one fell swoop. Well, here I am in Tulsa. It's a long story for you, but here I am in Tulsa. And Kathy's 8 months pregnant with Ronnie. It's 100 degrees in August. It wasn't like playing this year in May.
Yeah, I know.
And it was so hot. And so I get on the first tee. It's one thing to walk side to side in February in LA with the being close to the ocean and all.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother thing in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But I stuck to it. I'm going side to side. And Arnold never beat me. And January has been my idol forever because he's out of the era of January had a bunch of guys. I'm going to think of Golby, Diane Sykes, Gardner Dickinson, all of whom grew up in an era where they I wouldn't say needle, but they had ways of getting under your skin, like Sam tried to do with me at LA later in 74. And here, Don January picked me out. It was nice enough to slow me down and explain something to me that changed my entire career.
Yeah. And
it was unbelievable.
You beat Palmer and Bob Murphy by 2 strokes.
Yep.
Yeah. Isn't it true, Dave, that Arnold Palmer shot a 12 at Rancho Park one day?
I remember it as being 11. I remember an 11. It was on the par 5 and he hit 2 balls out of bounds or 3 balls out of bounds, actually. It may have been a 12. I thought it was an 11, but Arnold, people don't realize how great Arnold is and the pull he has. I mean, I still remember playing behind him at Pebble Beach in the Crosby, and he went for the 14th green in 2, the par 5, and he hit this pine tree and the ball kicked out of bounds, and he hit another one and hit the same tree and kicked it out of bounds. And the next day we come out to play and lightning had knocked that tree down.
Oh.
So you didn't mess with Arnold Palmer. That was the story. And it was a true story.
Yeah. Well, you skip ahead 4 years. You're best on the tour, as you say. 1974, you won 3 times. You finished runner-up at the Masters in 74. 6 years after winning your first major, you competed in the 1976 PGA at Congressional Country Club in Bethesda, Maryland, outside Washington, D.C. It was a wet week. At the halfway mark, Dave Stockton was 10 shots behind. On Saturday, you carded a 66, moved within 4 strokes of the leader. Rain canceled the final round on Sunday, so you had to wait until Monday. Dave, you played so well that when you came to the 72nd and final hole, you had a 15-foot putt for par to win the championship, and you made the putt to avoid a 3-man playoff with Raymond Floyd and your friend Don January. You had your second major. Did you ever have to come from that far behind to win?
No, I never did. And what you say, they rained out Sunday, but they didn't rain it out real soon. I actually played 5 holes on Sunday. In the first 5 holes, I was 3 over par.
Wow.
And they washed it all out. Okay. Now I had an American Airlines exhibition scheduled for Monday, but I didn't obviously participate because I had to play in the PGA. I was 2 under par those 5 holes. So I gained 5 shots on what I'd done if they had kept playing on Sunday. So I come in, the last fairway I hit on the back 9 was number 11. And I'm missing every single fairway until I got to 18 and I hit 3-wood off the tee just so I hoped I could find it. And sure enough, I hit the fairway, but I find myself over 220 yards to get to the pin surrounded with water on the left-hand side. So I had to lay up, left myself a 50-yard chip shot. And like you say, then the rest was history. I put it to 15 feet, and it was the longest putt to win the PGA at that time till Tiger showed up and made a couple quite longer than that. But basically, I knew the putt was in. I never saw it go in. A 4-foot from the hole, I knew it was going in. And I've turned to the left of the people across the lake, and I've raised my arms. And it was an unbelievable feeling. Between the two, Tulsa, I won myself. I beat the field. I knew that I was just unbelievable how well I played. My first impression was two things happened. One, I realized I was going to be a Ryder Cup captain someday, because usually they pick the PGA champion. And now I had 2 championships. The other was there had to be 20 people going back to the room that night and shooting themselves, because they should have won that tournament. I had no business winning. I mean, I spent all day Monday with my good friend, President Ford, at the White House. I'd never been to the White House before. Took the family, and our house sitter, our babysitter was with us, Vicki Bevins, and we toured the White House. And so it was a week just to relax and enjoy. And then here in the end, everybody decided to give me a championship. Well, I took it, but it certainly felt different than Southern Hills did.
You beat 73 other players to win that second major. Now, in 1978, you finished in second place at the U.S. Open. When you turned to the senior tour, you were named Champions Tour Rookie Player of the Year in 1992, Champions Tour Player of the Year in 1993, leading money winner on the championship tour in 93 and 94. Dave Stockton was victorious in the 1992 and 1994 Senior Players Championships and the 1996 U.S. Senior Open. As he said, 3 senior majors he won. Then he became a 2-time Ryder Cup team member, a past Ryder Cup team captain. Exciting days for you.
It was fantastic. I mean, what Arnold and Jack and the rest of the guys, I mean, the senior tour, I don't know how Liv is going to impact that, but that was a fun time. That was, I could never figure out how anybody could go on to the Champions Tour and complain about anything. I mean, the purses were bigger than what we played for on the regular tour. A lot of the guys weren't quite as good as they used to be. And certainly for a few years there, I mean, I had my way with it and I loved it. It was because that's your friends, Ross. You're out there playing with them, guys you competed all your life. And it was just it's a phenomenal end to the way the career was. And, you know, it's just changed dramatically, obviously, but the prize money out there as the tour, because of Tiger primarily, was mushrooming up. I mean, the prize money, it's become quite to look back on your life. It's just there's highlight show after highlight show, and I wouldn't change anything.
Dave, how many holes in one did you have?
I've had 27.
Wow.
Yep. That if my dad was sitting here, he'd get mad all over again. Because my dad's the only one of the family. David has 5, Ronnie has 1, Kathy has 1, and yeah, I haven't had one in 20 years, so I'm due. I'm playing a little more now, so I'm still working, trying to get to 28.
What is the most important golf shot you think you ever made?
That's pretty easy. Do you know which one I'm going to pick?
Probably after you hit the ball in the water at 13.
No, most important shot I hit was having Sam Snead in my face, trying to needle the hell out of me on the 18th hole at Riviera, and having 243 yards to the hole when I thought I had about 215. I didn't realize how bad I'd hit it to the left after he had needled me on 17 and then again on 18T. And he's standing right beside to hit the ball. I mean, I got the ball 6 inches below me up on the hill where they have the plaque there at Riviera. I've never hit the green again since. And the wind was into us, which was highly unusual. It's usually helping there. And it amuses me. I watch the guys now hit pitching wedge into the 18th green at Riviera, which I couldn't do if the fairway was cement. But I mean, I hit the 3-wood, and you know, it was an easy shot, except I don't want to go into the hill on the left and I don't want to kill the people on the right. And I had to make sure I carried the bunker, and I hit it 12 feet. And I walked to Sam standing, his ball 60 yards ahead of me. He's standing right by my golf bag, 5 yards from me. And I put my fist under his nose, which they didn't see on camera. And I said, Well, I guess because he had told me on the tee, walked up to me on the tee. He's on the right, I'm on the left. And he walks over to me, he says, I know you don't know this, son, but in 1951, I birdied the last 2 holes to beat Hogan here. And I walked up to it as after I hit the 3 wood, put my fist on her nose. I said, I bet Hogan didn't hit it that close, did he, sir? And I just walked off. And as soon as I finished, you were there. As soon as I finished, I told the press the entire story.
Yeah.
And what had transpired on 17 and then 18. And it just made that shot that much more meaningful for me. And this goes way back to what you and I talked about on this live tour. How many kids are going to have the chance to say they played LA, they won the tournament against an idol, let's say could be Tiger Woods now to some of these guys, obviously, but in that case, it was Sam Snead. Where is the history on that tour? What kind of history are they going to make? And therein lies the problem, and I don't get it.
Probably an unfair question.
Yep.
Who do you consider to have been the best golfer of all time?
I would go era by era. I would say, obviously, from my era, I would say Nicklaus. The most inspirational in how he handled people would have been Arnold Palmer. But then you take one step back, and it's almost the Byron Nelson, who I respected probably as great as any man I've ever met. I didn't get to meet Bobby Jones necessarily, but I would have loved to met him. And now you're going to say Tiger Woods, and you're going to say Tiger Woods or Jack Nicklaus would be my 2 top ones.
Yeah.
And everybody likes to compare their swings. I compare, and I still think the reason they were where they are is because of what their mental capabilities are, but those are who I would pick.
Nicklaus has the most majors, 18.
Yep.
Tiger has 15. Will Tiger have a chance to catch Jack?
No, he's blown his chance. He probably should have, but he's had a couple of hiccups, which, self-inflicted to a certain extent, obviously. And I don't think he will. That doesn't dilute from his greatness. I know he'd like one more tournament. I think his immediate goal is one more tournament to get rid of the tie with Sam Snead for the all-time number of wins. But there's no doubt the impact that he had on the game, which Arnold and Jack both had. And Tiger, the prize money you're talking about, all this different stuff. Tiger's been highly influential in that, and being, he's brought different people into the game, and rightly so. He should be highly respected for what he's brought to our game and its history.
Dave, you have the reputation of being one of the best putters in golf. Phil Mickelson asked you to help him in 2009, and that year he won the Pro Tour Championship. I know you've also worked with Rory McIlroy, and you can name others if you want to, but that's quite a tribute for you to be ranked like that.
Well, Russ, I look back on my career, and I had a great playing career, not wonderful, but really good. And I'm not in the Hall of Fame, which what caused me not to make it is all my corporate outings I did and the fun I had teaching people. So now, after I finished playing and had rotator cuff surgery, and I really started, the first one was Michelle Wee 2 days before my rotator cuff surgery, and Mickelson was the first one after it. And then he went the very next week and beat Tiger to win the Tour Championship in Atlanta. Tiger won the overall FedEx, but Phil won. And it was interesting because Phil had played all that year, and he'd only made 13 putts over 20 feet. And he really was not putting well. And we worked Thursday and Friday, and he left on Monday to go play. And he made 9 putts over 20 feet in that 1 week alone. So I look at stuff like that. And Rory, I worked with Rory for 4 years, and I root for him harder than I root for anybody. We worked together. He got 4 majors. Well, he won a congressional. He won by 8 shots. His first 2 majors, he won by 8. He won, and we're tied together with these courses because he won by 8 at congressional. He won by 8 at Keogh Island in the PGA, both by 8. And he shot a 77 on Friday and still won by 8. The kid is just totally impressive, and he's going to be right up there ranked with the greatest of all time when he gets through. And especially the way he handles people and how he handles like people like yourself or do the reporting of this great game in all sports. But he is very special. And I know my dad's looking down. Then he said, son, you had a great career. You played really well, but he's going to take his hat off to me when it comes to this teaching and putting, because we have impacted a whole generation of putters.
One question about that for the people out there who love golf and play it regularly. What is the one thing that people do wrong when they line up a putt?
Well, first of all, Ross, they would have no routine. They get behind it and they're not at ease. I mean, they want to get it over with as fast as they can. So consequently, they try real hard. And when they try real hard, it's like signing your own signature. If you do your signature, it takes about 3 seconds. And then if I told you to do it in 20 and duplicate that first signature, but make it exactly the same, you can't do it. And so when people try to putt, they are trying so hard that they can't make it natural. So it becomes very stiff. You know, a quick tidbit was, if you play pool and you shoot pool fairly well, you ought to be a really good putter. But because they're both hand-eye coordination. And what happens when you're talking to somebody and working with them is that a putter he's gonna walk up real quick. A lot of people put lines on the ball now, and they've seen the pros. They take these practice strokes by the ball. They put the putter behind the ball, and now their mind goes to, okay, line it up. We got this lined up. We're on all these different things. The putter will sit still for 10 seconds. The same person shooting pool, there's no way they're taking practice strokes before they hit it. And they put the cue stick behind the ball, and do they keep it still? No, they keep it moving back and forth, and then they roll it. Well, that principle works perfect for putting, but because we want to try hard, we want to make this thing work really well, they get in their own way and they got no chance for it to be good. They really, really don't.
One of Dave's proudest moments came when he was inducted into the Southern California Golf Association Hall of Fame. It was a special day, and many of his tour friends showed up for the ceremony. Please enjoy this short film.
I'd like to congratulate you on your induction into the Southern California Golf Association Hall of Fame.
And congratulations, Dave Stockton, longtime friend. Wonderful to see you in the Hall of Fame, well deserved.
You know, Dave's one of those mother figures, I think. Not really father figures. Dave's kind of a mother figure.
To be known as somebody that the people were glad that they met along the way. Whether I gave you a lesson or I signed an autograph or I just talked to you a little bit. I don't want you impressed by my record. I'd like to be known as a nice person.
Congratulations to you, Dave Stockton. Appreciate all your help over the years, and it's a real tribute to see you inducted in the Hall of Fame. Unfortunately, it could be a little bit better if you were a Fresno State Bulldog and not a USC Trojan, but congratulations.
Dave Stockton, what a short game. Boy, he got the job done.
Dave, you know, you're renowned as a teacher. Obviously, the short game tips are really helping Phil, but you know, you ought to quit giving him the driver tips. That may not be going quite as well.
There's never been a U.S. team that's as tight as this one. This team has been through a hell of a lot, and we weren't about ready to quit. And I just, you know, I couldn't be prouder.
Dave Stockton was my Ryder Cup captain back at Key Island and always has been a great friend.
Being the captain of our 91 Ryder Cup, and I'm always indebted to you for picking me and choosing me as one of your team players on the 91 Ryder Cup team. So I've really enjoyed that. It's been an experience of a lifetime. I've always enjoyed it, and I've always followed your career, so congratulations, and may God always bless you.
You're by far the best Ryder Cup captain, whatever, I've ever been on, because we were the only team that won. So.
And it is only right and fitting that the captain, who so diligently emphasized the importance of team spirit, should be submerged by his charges.
Dave, you've helped me many times with my putting.
Known as one of the great short game, one of the great putters, one of the great gurus of putting.
My feet set over the ball, look one last time, and roll the ball right in the hole.
There's no great player who's probably hit more bad shots than Dave Stockton.
Get down, pop the ball up in the air, and I must have pushed it. But good enough, you'd take it.
You've always had a great admiration and aspiration to help kids and a heart for them, and I've always appreciated that about you.
When I was struggling with Lyme's disease, I called you on many occasions when I was contemplating retirement, and you really, really helped me a lot.
And quit giving Nicholson so many good putting tips, will you?
Dave, what a marvelous tribute from all of those friends of yours.
It was very special. It's not anything you start out to think you're going to make, but anytime people gather together and appreciate things you've done in your life and the people you've touched, it's very extremely meaningful, and it was a special time.
I'm not much of a golfer. In fact, I got to where I was so frustrated I gave it up. I did get 2 holes in 1 though, on short ones, 118 yards and 122 yards. So that's my claim to golf fame. But I remember reading a book, and he wrote several of them. A fellow who was the golf coach at the University of Texas for 33 years. He was a pro in Austin, Texas, 48 years. He was an instructor for, they said, about 7 decades. And you know who I'm talking about.
Yes, sir. Yes, I do. And
Harvey Pinnock.
Yeah, Harvey Pinnock and his little red book. Another one of the books my dad wouldn't let me read. But
really,
oh yeah, he never let me read golf magazines. I never read golf. I was taught, because he felt everybody was an individual, and he did not want me getting off on the wrong trail. In fact, when I go on tour, we had such a rapport that I could tell him the ball flight, if I described it correctly and which way it was going. He could tell me over the phone what I was doing wrong. And so, but the average person nowadays, the way media is and all this stuff, is there's so much stuff out there, YouTube, all this stuff. They see a lot of stuff and they learn a lot of stuff, and they're much more knowledgeable we are, especially on the long game. But like in the putting, there's been nothing developed that's led them on the right track for an awful long time. And there lies my success, because I kind of filled a void. But Harvey Pinnock, and when you look at Ben Crenshaw and you look at Tom Kite, 2 totally different golfers and everything. Harvey taught them both, but I promise you, he told them 2 different things. And they just appreciated the wisdom. And that, I think of Runyon. I also I think of Paul Runyon out here in San Diego, like Harvey Pinnock is. They're the really important background of the foundation of a lot of us learning how to play. And when you name somebody like that, Alex Morrison, who in the 30s in Riverside taught my dad, taught Jack Grout, who taught Nicklaus, taught Henry Picard, who won the PGA and the Masters, all by a teacher that nobody knows about anymore, but their instruction type was something that led to people getting really good. And but here I was fortunate to have my dad be my only teacher and never have to worry about a lot of the nuances and stuff. I may not have had the best swing, but I had the best swing for myself and be able to get it around with it.
Dave, I remember one quote from Harvey Pinnock in that book, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what he said was 70% of golf is from 75 yards in.
That makes perfect sense to me. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's what it is. I mean, and now they bomb it. I mean, way past where we hit it, and yet they're not that good with the short game. And there's a reason behind it, because it's not strength. And now you get to putting, and that's where putting, you know, people, again, they're trying to perfect their practice stroke and all this different stuff. And it's just not that, it's not that hard. And people don't get it. But there's two games. Ben Hogan was never a favorite son of putting and around the greens because he wasn't as good as he was the rest. He couldn't perfect that part. And part of it lay in the odd that it's not the same. I mean, I believe your golf swing, if you're right-hander, your right hand, you're releasing the ball and you're releasing the club head through the ball. And yet in putting, I don't want to release the club head. That's the last thing I want to do because I don't want to hit it. I want to roll it. So I want my left hand, which is much calmer, to go on through. It's just where I come from. And, you know that I'm correct with the success I've had with all the other pros that I've been, amateurs that I've worked with. And, but it's been a wonderful ride, Ross. It really has.
Dave, anything else you want to mention? You've just been terrific with all your knowledge today. It reminds me of a baseball player who can tell you the pitches he hit from the pitcher 25 years after the pitcher threw the ball. The first ball is a slider, second ball is a sinker, third ball is high and outside. It's amazing what you athletes can do.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't have much to add. It's funny, though, that there's something going on right now that I'm enjoying greatly. And that is my idol growing up, because I wanted to play baseball, was Ted Williams. And I probably the only person I ever watched that an umpire was hesitant to call a strike, because if it had been a strike, Williams would have swung at it, right?
That's
but
right.
He knew the strike zone so good. I am totally enamored with Ohtani of the Angels.
Yeah.
I wish that'd be one person I would like to meet, because I admire how he pitches and the thoughtfulness and how as a hitter. I mean, he's got to be inspiring at generations like Tiger. I mean, it's one of a kind. And in baseball, they go back, he's breaking, doing what Babe Ruth did. And so, like, I watched the All-Star game last. I don't think he was too happy to get picked off first after getting the hit off Kershaw. But I don't have anything more to add. It's just, for me, it's a treasure to get to talk to you. It's been a long time. We talked about decades, but it's fun to reminisce with you. And I'll say one thing: you always covered the sports in LA. You were the key man, and still are, I guess, because you have the knowledge of it, and we're good. Sports has been very good to us, hasn't it?
Sure has. Dave, I've enjoyed this so much. Thanks for taking the time to be with us. And my friends, stay healthy.
Okay, you too, Ross. Take care. All the best.